month.
Yeah.
It was 72 during the day, no humidity. And then at night, well, when we went out fishing at 5 in the morning, it was 52. And the lake was steaming because it's 76. So, yeah. That was cool.
That must be Katrina. We've spoken, but never met. There's Mark. So I think we have Chris, David, Brian, Brantley, Mark. Let me check with Alicia to see if we're waiting on. Yeah, the only person we're missing right now is Chris Sansbury, but we do have quorum. So Brantley, once we hit 5:30, you can be.
Mary Catherine, I couldn't have.
What was that?
Your comment of people coming out. You got just people.
Mary Catherine, do we want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That may have been what you were trying to say before, but I couldn't hear you.
I got you. All right.
Yeah, we have a quorum and it's 5:30. So.
All right. Well, let's call the September 3rd Planning Commission meeting to order. We'll start off with approval of last month's meeting minutes. Is there any changes, redactions that anybody sees needs to be made? If not, I'll be accepting emotions.
Made a motion to.
We got a first. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Brandon.
All in favor signify by putting up your little reaction thumbs up.
Okay.
All right.
I give you the thumbs up. I don't know how you did the little icon. So there's one there.
Mary Catherine, have you got everybody recorded on that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, will you start us off on this month's agenda?
Yes. The first request is an annexation and rezoning of approximately 4.23 acres of property that's located at the corner of Cox Ferry and Highway 501. And this request is to rezone from Horry County Highway Commercial to City of Conway Highway Commercial. This is contiguous to the city limits, and therefore, in order to develop and get city services, annexation is required. And we have Katrina Newsom on the line, who is the applicant for this project and can answer any specific questions you may have. Their intention is to develop the site for a convenience store, a 7-Eleven, if I'm not mistaken. They have submitted the plans for review. Staff is looking into it. And one thing I just wanted to bring to your attention, I know that this is well known as a very dangerous intersection. City staff has been talking to DOT since January about this, and they actually informed us yesterday that they have selected a contractor to do some work here to provide a protected left turn. So that should help. That is what our police chief had recommended that they do in this area. It won't affect this development, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention because I know that may be a question because everyone knows how dangerous this intersection is. But I'm happy to answer any specific questions you may have, and I know Ms. Newsom would also. Any
I
questions? Anyone?
I guess that
sorry,
was
go ahead.
probably my biggest concern was the traffic there because of that intersection. So DOT is talking about doing something proactively right now to help reduce some of that's going on. Because there's gonna be a lot more traffic. I mean, right now you only have the Waffle House,
Right.
but when you put a gas station,
They're in procurement for new signal here. So it is something that they're aware of. And I know the city's police chief has been very vocal to them and the county as well about the need for something at this intersection.
Yeah.
And we actually brought it to the applicant's attention when they first were submitting plans that this was a concern and something that we wanted to make sure was addressed, not by the developer, but that this would be a question by planning commission and city council.
Did the fire department have any concerns?
Jessica, not that I'm aware of. Like I said, it's still in technical review committee for review. So if there are any concerns, that will be worked out at the staff level. But I haven't heard any large concerns, no.
And I cut out for a second. Has the public chimed in any on this? If there's any complaints about it?
Not yet. We haven't received any.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll put it back to the board if there's a motion that would like to be made on this subject.
This is David. I move to approve as presented.
Second.
All right. We have a first and second. All in favor signify by thumbs up or no thumbs up.
I think we got everybody.
I can't get my thumb to work.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
But I'm good.
Thanks, Katrina. I'll be in contact on the city council meeting day.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. And you're welcome to stay on the line, but I understand if you want to leave also.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
All righty. What's next on our agenda, Mary Catherine?
And I'll present it, but then I'm going to hand the baton to Jessica. This was the previously deferred discussion of amendments to the professional district. Y'all may remember this. We talked about it 2 meetings ago, and you'd asked staff to do a little more research. This is where we had someone request to do a hair salon in their home, which the home is actually zoned professional. But again, I'm going to pass it over to Jessica because she's been working on this and let her tell you all what staff has found. Thanks, Jessica.
Yep. So some of the concerns that at the last meeting that I heard was there were concerns with customers coming and going, parking, and signage. So to address some of those, staff has attempted to add some additional language. Some of them are conditions that would require the entire parcel to comply with standards for commercial development. We added a condition that separates the proposed amendment from home occupations in that this mixed use section is intended for uses that otherwise would not be permitted as a home occupation. For example, a hair salon. So, if someone wants to do a home-based business and they just have a home and it's zoned professional, they could do that if it's a permitted use as a home-based business. But this mixed use section gives the ability for someone, if the use isn't allowed as a home occupation, then they would be able to pursue this. And we also added standards for signage when the parcel has a combination of residential and commercial uses or structures. There was one section in the amendment that we kind of wanted to get your guidance on. One of the biggest things that I noticed with the professional district is that you are limited to a maximum footprint of 30% of the total lot size. Well, this particular parcel, if you can go to the next slide, Mary Catherine, you can kind of see that the structures on here more than likely exceed 30% of the total lot size. Granted, they are existing. So there was a couple of options that I put in there. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look over those options and see which one you thought would be the best option. And if you have any questions about that, I'll be glad to answer them for you. But what it says is that for lots with existing residential structures, new construction may be permitted for additional uses on the condition that the addition or structure complies with all applicable standards as stated in 6.3.2D, which is the mixed use requirements for professional that was added. And then there's another that we could do that changes the percentage from 30% to 50% of the total lot size. Or you could just leave it alone entirely and say, if they exceed 30% of the lot size, unless it's existing, then they wouldn't be able to do it. And one afterthought that I actually had after putting it in there was that, if there was a commercial structure on a parcel zone P and they wanted to add a residential structure, but that is like that's like the least intense use for that zoning district. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. As far as having a hair salon, the state says that residential salons must maintain a separate entrance for clients, and entrance shall not open from the living, dining, or sleeping quarters, and all doors previously opening into such quarters must be permanently sealed. No portion of the salon may be used as a portion of a private residence, and entrances must permit patrons to enter salon directly without requiring passage through any portion of the residence, and separate toilet facilities for patrons must be provided apart from the living quarters. So if the amendment should pass by city standards, it would not be, a salon would not be considered a home occupation, but rather a mixed use that would be allowed in the professional district. Did you guys have any thoughts on that part of the amendment?
I'm just struggling to get, this is David, I'm just struggling to get my head around this. My recollection from a couple meetings ago, it was kind of a simple change, and that made sense in my simple brain. And then this part, I'm just having a hard time distinguishing what we did last time compared to this.
The only thing that we said, we have several districts, Waccamaw Riverfront Development District, where there's standard requirements for each zoning district, but then there's a mixed use requirement for that district. And what we wanted to do was just create a section for mixed use requirements for the professional district as well. So we're in professional right now. You can either have a commercial use or a single family or a residential use. You can't have both. So we wanted to create a section that would allow the opportunity to have both a commercial and a residential use on the same parcel. Due to some concerns that were brought up at the last meeting, There was some concerns with signage, lots, lot size requirement or building footprint requirement and parking. And we want to make sure that one, nothing would preclude residential structures from obtaining a home occupation where permitted. So that, would alleviate confusion, is that just because it was on the parcel where their home would be located, it doesn't mean that it's going to be a home occupation. So they would still be able to do something there that would otherwise not be allowed in the home, as long as they met all commercial requirements. So the property would have to be developed just like they were building a new commercial structure on the lot. Then signage, there was some concerns with signage and what type of signage they can have. Typically in the professional district, most signage can be about 8 foot in height. You can have 24 square feet of sign area, and it could be illuminated. So we added some signage requirements that would have to be followed in the event that the parcel had a residential and a commercial structure on the parcel.
So one of the questions I got is, let's say somebody wants to do this and add a beauty salon, which they can meet all LL&R requirements. Is there an additional tap fee, impact fee, and all that also gets assigned to them?
Yeah,
Yes.
they have to have a separate meter.
So will they have to also go through a building permit also?
Yes. They would have to go through a complete technical review committee review. So they'd have to install landscape buffers. They would have to install parking. So the concern with parking, people parking on the street if it weren't allowed, or just parking in the yard, they would actually have to have parking for the use. So whatever parking requirements that there would be for a hair salon or any other use, even if it was an office use, because one of the biggest things in home occupations is you can't have customers come into the home. Well, with this amendment, you could have customers come into the home because you would have a commercial addition or a separate commercial structure, but you would have to comply with all applicable standards for development in order to do that.
Well, that kind of addresses my only concern from last time. I didn't want people to say, I'm not going to, move into the business district because I can buy a house and do the same job cheaper.
Well, Brantley, I'm kind of going to go on the lines with you, but I'm going to be the devil's advocate and be the neighbor. If I lived at 914 or 910 Lakewood or any of the other ones that are in the professional or mixed use district, I would be a little bit reserved about it if I knew that there was a 24 square foot illuminated sign going in my neighbor's yard. And is there any particular restrictions of time of business hours? So when I'm trying to bed down at 8 o'clock, because I have to get up for first shift early in the morning, I have to worry about an illuminated sign and cars coming in and out of the neighbor's driveway because they're still doing business. So that would be some of my concerns.
Yes, sir. And to address that, if the use is not permitted in the professional zoning district, it's not going to be permitted there. So in the professional zoning district, if you look around, Main Street, 9th Avenue, Buck Street, places like that, most of the time your professional is kind of intermixed close to your residential homes. In fact, a lot of the buildings that are on professional actually look residential in nature. So you're not going to have a restaurant, for example. It's going to be uses that are already permitted in the professional zoning district that typically would not be permitted as a home occupation. As far as signage goes, some of the requirements that I had put in this amendment to address the concerns with signage is that no illumination is allowed. And I reduced the signage if this is when you have a residential and commercial combination. So if it's just a professional lot and they build a commercial business, then this wouldn't apply. But in the event that they're going to have a residence and a business, you're going to have internal illumination is prohibited. So if they want to do external illumination, which is typically like your, gooseneck lighting or ground up lighting, they would have to comply with the illumination requirements, which would be, very strict. It wouldn't be able to be but so many lumens. It wouldn't be able to, go into any yards. It's just going to be right there at the sign. They can only have one business sign, and the freestanding signs could only be 8 square feet. So that's relatively small. And that's just because if you have a residence and a business, you want to make sure that you keep the residential intent of that district as much as possible when you have a residence that's going to be on the same parcel.
Well, just let me tag that, Jessica, to answer one more question. With this, would there be a restriction on hours of operation, since this is kind of in a mixed district? There again, just trying to protect the homeowners that are in the areas.
No, we did not. And again, that's because in the professional district, your businesses are typically going to be, your bank, a law firm, other business offices, a hair salon. So those typically are not businesses that are going to operate late at night. They're going to be more day-oriented businesses rather than ones that would operate at night. You're not going to see a gas station or anything like that. So we did not put hours of operation in this.
And I just want to tag on to what Jessica said. This is only going to apply to these parcels that are professional already, that could do these businesses already. This amendment is only changing it to allow you to do the house and the business at the same time. Someone could go in there tomorrow and put a hair salon with the signage and everything. It's just the problem that she ran across was she couldn't do both. So we aren't making it more commercial, if that makes sense. We're just allowing the mix of the two. But someone could do a professional office there now. And from what I understand, it was a law office at some point. This building, this home. So I just wanted to clarify that we're not making it more commercial. We're just allowing the mix of the uses.
And this is David. I may be misunderstanding, but in that vein, I don't see where we need to make, for instance, the sign portion of the ordinance more onerous just on account of somebody living there. It seems like if it's in the professional district, then it's in the professional district, whether somebody's partially living and working out of there. So it makes sense to me that it'd be uniform and not more onerous, if I'm understanding it correctly.
And that's a good point. I think Jessica, I'll let you handle that, but I think you did that piggybacking off of the concern about the signage at the last meeting.
Yeah, and I just want to, and that's certainly within your purview. If you don't want to include that in there at all, that was just to give you another option to kind of make it more strict if there, was concerns with it having residential. But just in my feeling is, if you're going to have this, it's going to be the person who likely lives there that's also going to be running the business. And again, these professional parcels are abutting other parcels that are zoned professional or residential. So they're kind of like the buffer, between residential and your main thoroughfares that I've noticed throughout the city. It's one of the lesser intense commercial districts. And again, you're going to typically see office uses in these districts. And again, if it's in a CAB review district also, and not all professional parcels are, but if it's in a CAB review district, then it would have to go to the Community Appearance Board for review as well, for any signage or any exterior improvements that were done to the parcel.
So just so I'm clear, what we are doing, are we doing an amendment to, or is this back for the one issue that came in front of us for the lady that'd like to have the beauty salon?
This is an amendment to the professional zoning district to add a section for mixed use requirements for the professional district. So this wouldn't be just to address a hair salon, it would be for any use. And that was permitted in the professional district to be allowed. So this was tabled at the July meeting to, address some of the concerns. I did try to look at other cities and towns, but I'm going to tell you a lot of what I found was that home occupations were varied based on lot sizes. So you'd have some uses that would be permitted if the lot was a commercial forest agriculture, if you had 5 acres versus having an acre or less. And it was really difficult to try to find something that was similar to what we wanted to accomplish here in Conway. So this, I feel would give this lady in particular, or anybody who wanted to have a mixed use in professional, it would give them the ability to do it, but there would be a lot of commercial requirements and it would have to go through full technical review in order to be able to do that. And this wouldn't be for anything that would be allowed as a home occupation. This is just for uses that would not be allowed as a home occupation.
I think that answers my questions on it. Does the board have any more concerns or questions?
No, I think it looks really good. You've been very thorough going through it all, putting it together. So good job, Jessica.
Thank you. The biggest thing is that for that one section, it's section 632A2. Like I said, as an afterthought, I think in staff's opinion, it would be best to just not add anything, to leave it the way it is. Right now, you have a 30% maximum footprint of the total lot size. So if, for example, if their lot was 10,000 square feet, they could have 3,000 square foot of building footprint. And that's, my opinion is it would probably best to just leave that alone. That there's probably my thinking is that because these professional districts do fall so close to residential neighborhoods and districts, that it's to provide space and spacious character and, that little bit of a residential nature as you typically see in the professional district. So we could just, if you wanted to, we could just strike through all of those proposed amendments on that section. It wouldn't affect section D, the mixed use requirements. This is just saying that we won't amend the 30% maximum building footprint. We would leave that alone.
Okay. So one, any more questions? And two, if an amendment's coming up, once you state your amendment, kind of give everybody a little bit of time to see if there's like an add-on or a takeoff.
I think we lost Brantley.
Oh, I'm back.
There you're back. Good.
Hold on, give me a second. I'm toggling back and forth. I may have something to say. Just give me just 2 minutes.
Sure.
And I'll be honest, I mean, for me, this was an amendment that staff struggled with, or that I struggled with, because we didn't want to blur the lines between a home-based business versus a commercial business. So, I was trying to make sure that we really separated out, and we didn't say, well, the hair salon could be a home occupation. I even checked with the business license office, and they said that, they don't classify something as a home occupation. It's either, that's what zoning would do. So we have certain requirements for zoning. So the biggest thing is to make sure that it wouldn't have an impact on as far as business licensing went. And it will not. So that's a good thing.
And that 30% is only on new construction, not existing, correct?
Right, so this is actually already in there.
Right.
It says that all new construction shall result in a maximum building footprint. So if somebody, let's just say, for instance, their lot was 10,000 square feet and they already had 2,000 square foot of building footprint, then the new construction would only be able to be 1,000 square feet, so that they did not exceed that 3,000 maximum square feet on that lot.
Or they'd have to go up.
Yes, or yes, they could, yeah.
Yeah. But if it was existing and say it was already 50%, it doesn't really apply because it's existing.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct. If it's existing, it's considered legal nonconforming. But I will say this. Let's say that it was only ever used as residential and they wanted to do a combination of both. Well, that's a change of use. But there is an opportunity, you know, possibly to ask for a variance on that, since a mixed use would be allowed use in professional. There may be opportunities to apply for a variance, since you'd have a legal non-conforming situation. I don't know if Mary Catherine, if you have any thoughts on that.
You're saying if it's already too big, is that what you're saying?
Right. Case in point, the property in question, 912 Lakewood, it's already exceeding the 30%, but it's an existing property.
My feeling is unless they're adding on, that they wouldn't need to. The structure's already there. That's my opinion. Because that'd be, otherwise you'd be requiring them to tear a portion of it down.
Yeah.
Or stay with the original ordinance, which means they can either have it residential or professional, but not mixed use. If it's over 30%, they're gonna have to choose one or the other.
Yeah,
That's correct.
that's right. And a lot of times, you know, you're not going to fill up the whole lot because you're going to have to do buffers and you're going to have to do parking. And so you're going to need that extra space to meet all those requirements. So no one could fill up the whole lot, even without that percentage requirement. They have other parameters they have to meet.
But the way this is written right now, just for this example, would they be able to put a salon on this property the way that we're amending this?
Yes.
Right.
She could. Yeah, she could. Now she's going to have to do a lot. She's going to have to go through a complete commercial review. So she's going to have to put in parking. She's going to have to make sure that she meets DHEC requirements, the building department requirements, and she's going to have to do landscaping.
Yeah.
But it's doable.
Okay.
The first roadblock here was the two uses aren't allowed together. So
Right.
there are other things that can be handled at staff level, but that was one issue that could not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in a nutshell, that this ordinance is the gateway to being able to do that, to do the two uses on the same parcel.
And if I've got my bearings right here, this is the old Derrick Law Firm building, and the building behind it, which was home office for the Rock Church for a number of years. So wouldn't this already be a professional use building?
It was, and it's zoned professionally.
Yeah.
Which I think is where the confusion came in for her when she purchased the property.
Right.
And like I said, if she was just doing a hair salon, she could do it, or just a home. It's just she can't do them both at the same time. The way the ordinance is written now.
Jessica, in section 4 about signage, is there anything in A, B, and C? Is that just adopting other provisions of the professional district that relate to signage, or is that an alteration for mixed use?
It's an alteration.
Okay, and each one of those in A, B, and C?
Yes, we do have other types of signage. Like if somebody wanted to do a freestanding sign, they wouldn't be able to do internal illumination anyway. But if they're doing a monument sign, they could do internal illumination. So, I mean, it pulls language from other parts of the ordinance. It's just an alteration of existing language to fit the mixed use requirement when you have a combination of residential and commercial on the same parcel.
What about D? Is that just referencing another section, or is that somehow changing something?
4D,
Yes, ma'am.
that actually is very commonplace throughout the ordinance when you have properties that are in a CAB review district. It's just to state basically that if it is in a historic design review district, it shall be reviewed by the Community Appearance Board.
Okay.
That's a disclaimer we throw out a lot, just to make sure, no matter where you look in the ordinance, folks will see that and know that it's a requirement.
All right, I'm going to make a couple of comments that I may turn into a motion depending on making sure I'm not missing anybody's point of view here. As I'm hearing it, it sounds like there's a consensus that A2, that we'll leave that the same and not make any alterations at that point. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. And the same thing for 3, we're planning on leaving 3 alone. We have a consensus on that.
Yeah.
For D, and this is David talking, and then somebody may disagree with me. 1, 2, and 3 look great. I would be in favor of eliminating 4, A, B, and C, such that professional signage is the same regardless of whether it's all professional, all residential, or mixed. And then making D, it might make sense. 4D would just become 4. Number 4. But that's sort of what everybody's, well, the last part's about signage is my suggestion, but that's me distilling what it sounds like is going on. And I'd be inclined to make a motion along those lines if I can somehow say it. But when the time comes. But anyway, that was just me trying to make sure I had my head around it.
Well,
And David, I think you're just trying to make it so it's less confusing, and the signage just goes with normal signage. And we don't throw anything extra in the amendment here, correct?
That's my thought.
Yeah, I'm okay. And I think this might be a little more stringent, correct, Jessica? That's what you were trying to do for this.
Yes, sir.
I'm in favor with what David's saying. Let's kind of make it less murky in here and let our signage be what it is, and then let CAB decide if it's in the district. So that does make sense.
That sounds good to me.
all right, so we're gonna say, our
Make that motion, David.
All right. So the motion I'm making is to, basing off the draft that Jessica has prepared for 6.3.2 professional district, we are going to keep A2, the language identical. We will keep A3 identical as existing. We're not making a change there. On draft provision D, which is mixed use requirements for P, we will accept numbers 1, 2, and 3 as presented. We will eliminate items 4A, B, and C, and we will convert item 4D will now become the totality of the language for numeral 4.
Got it.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right, we got a first and a second. All in favor, signify by a thumbs up.
Okay, I think we got it.
Thanks for your help with this one.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, what we got next, Miss Mary Catherine?
I think that's it. The only other item I wanted to mention was City Council has gone back to in-person meetings. But we, as y'all all know, the planning department, we have several different boards, and we are leaving it up to each individual board on whether they would like to go back to in-person meetings or continue with the Zoom, for as long as they'd like. Zoning board has chosen to go back to in-person meetings next month. CAB still rolling with Zoom, right, Jessica?
I thought they wanted to, but at the last meeting, they opted to go back to in-person meetings. So starting in September 9th meeting, they'll be doing in-person at the public safety building.
Gotcha. City Council and I think ZBA, but City Council is doing theirs at the rec center. And I'll say, I think it works well there to do those meetings, but I just wanted to bring it forward to y'all to see how you feel. Or it could be something if we felt like we had a larger agenda, we could do it in person. But if it was something small, Zoom, it's completely up to the board what you're comfortable with. But I just wanted to bring that before
All
you
right.
discussion.
Well, I'll put it in front of the board. All in favor of returning to face-to-face, thumbs up. If not, then no emoji.
Okay, looks like in person. Okay. Well, we'll plan our next month's meeting at the more than likely the Sports and Fitness Center, but we'll send details closer to that date. But what we've done at the council meetings, everyone wears masks. We space everyone out as much as possible. If the public is invited, they just come in one at a time. Check temperatures at the door. So all those protocols will be in place. But that's all I had, unless any board members or commission members have anything else. All right, frankly, I think that finishes us up.
All righty. Well, thank you. And we'll adjourn the September 3rd meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.